It's a new VAT dispensation and the list. And don't forget, as he said, you still have time to comment if you think that more should be done by the VAT panel or more items should be added. All right, more on that during the course of the week. But let's go to Palesa, who's, I think, got a guest talking about Mama Zondeni.
All right, thank you so much, Peter. Yes, indeed, as we continue to look into the life of Mama Zondeni Sobukwe. She was the wife of the founding president of the PAC, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. She died in the early hours of this morning at the age of 91. In a statement, President Ramaphosa says the loss of Zondeni during Women's Month is a sad loss, and he further says the nation has lost a fighter for the freedom of all South Africans who continued her activism into the democratic dispensation. Let us now reflect on her live with the PAC President Narius Moloto. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through, and of course condolences to the family and to the PAC.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Now, this goes, of course, without any doubt that we're talking about a fearless leader, someone who stood the test, someone who stood beside her husband throughout.
Yes, that's quite correct. But maybe let me just highlight something. There's names Zondeni Zodwa Veronica Sobukwe. Okay. I think it's important to also note that. Yes, we are saddened by her death, the passing. When we heard about it this morning, we will be taken aback. But we have to move on and to celebrate their life. I think there's a lot to learn from Mama Sobukwe. She has been a pillar behind Sobukwe. When Sobukwe was taken to prison, was in detention, was in Robben Island, sentenced there by the Act of Parliament, she continued to be the pillar of strength. She actually grew children on her own.
Yeah. But even before that, in the Moloto, she was a struggle icon herself during her days as a trainee nurse at Victoria Hospital, for example. So she's always been an activist even before meeting her husband.
Yes, starting there, she was a leader in her own right. Basically, when Sobukwe met her, she met her as a leader of the student nurses at that particular institution. So that's quite correct. She was fearless, and she stood up at a time when people wouldn't like to come in front.
She even stood up when, after the passing of her husband, of course, during the Truth and Reconciliation hearings, where she narrated the story, the pain that she had to go through, you know, seeing her husband. But most importantly, basically saying that she knew that what happened to her husband was going to happen because her husband was a struggle icon. He was an activist as well.
Exactly. That's quite correct. I mean, she went through suffering. All through the special branches, harassment, on day-to-day, she has experienced them all. Sobukwe was one of the most brutalized political leader of this country, and very little has been highlighted about his suffering. We just see some features here and there.
But it also looks like very little is being highlighted about the contribution of Mama Sobukwe in the struggle.
I agree.
Why is it so? Why is not much being said about her?
Look, very little was focused really on her role. Maybe because of she's a woman, maybe because at that time. But we have months set aside, like your month of August, set aside to celebrate heroines of South Africa. But even during this month, one would say that you hardly hear about her. Exactly. No, you are right. She wasn't really interviewed. She was not offered an opportunity to share her experience with the nation, with the people, what she went through during her husband's detention, during her husband's banishment, in Kimberley and all over. So it's an information that she almost had to live without sharing it with the nation. Yeah,
it's what we have to read on the books and on the internet. But we know that in April this year she was awarded the Order of Lithuli, and you know, there was so much criticism after this, many people saying that she wasn't celebrated sufficiently so, not just by the government itself, but by other South Africans as well.
Sure. No, the life of Sobukwe and the life of his family, particularly of the wife, Veronica wasn't really celebrated, wasn't noted, wasn't taken seriously, like what will normally find the life of the icons being celebrated in other environments, other countries, even in this particular country. She lived a very lonely struggle life on her own, and very few people actually knows that she's still alive and she's still contributing.
Isn't
in
it
her
where
own
you were
way.
supposed to come in as the PAC, knowing her contributions to the struggle, knowing her capabilities, knowing of how far she had gone for her husband as well, to come out and say, this is a story that we should be telling the nation out there. So you didn't do your part as well as the PAC.
For the past 6 years, the PAC has highlighted the legacy of Sobukwe and the legacy of Ms. Veronica Sobukwe. We actually, from time to time, went to visit and spend time with her as the leadership of the PAC. On the 12th of May this year, the leadership of the PAC visited her. We spent the whole day with her on the Mother's Day.
So that's earlier this year. How was she
yeah.
feeling? How did she look? Were there any signs of being unwell?
Obviously, she was weak, but she was very happy. What impressed us more is her memory. She could remember almost everything in her life when she was in Johannesburg, what the movement in Alexandra, movement around Soweto, in all parts of Gauteng. I was surprised actually to see how she can still remember almost everything, the name of the streets and in Soweto and also around Alexandra. So we were quite impressed to still have having the sort of history of so many other situations that we didn't even know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you say she was very happy when you went to visit her earlier this year in May. But are you worried as the PAC that Mama leaves us at a time when what her husband fought for the PAC seems to be, sort of falling apart, court battles throughout, court cases, and the PAC only has one seat in parliament? How did she feel about the whole situation around what is happening with the PAC now?
Look, the situation of the PAC is not an impressive one, but it's the situation of the PAC. The PAC will have to get it right. There's no amount of sympathy from outside the PAC that will get it right.
Yeah.
And
but was she not worried? Because the husband was the founder of this organization that seems to be dying.
We were actually surprised by her understanding. She followed each and every step and situation of the PAC. She understands, because what is happening around the PAC is not new. It has always been there, and she knows very well that the challenges the PAC is actually experiencing, it will overcome them. What actually, her last word to the leadership of the PAC was quite touching, and we couldn't even understand. But she has said, don't go back, move on, raise the flag of the PAC.
And how are you taking the message forward as the PAC?
And we have taken that message forward.
But you were in court just last week. The
Yes,
PAC was in court just last week.
That's true, protecting its image and its interest. And we believe that it's the right thing to do. What do you do if you are confronted by the situation that needs court? You have to go to court. Because you cannot, there are things that you can do within your capability. But as a responsible leadership, when you're confronted by a situation that needs court, where do you go? You go to court to seek protection of the organization, so that the organization can remain intact and functional, and it can continue to fulfill its mission. Is it intact?
Is the organization intact from where you sit in that Moloto?
Organization of the PAC is very much intact. The only unfortunate story that has been coming is that the people that left the PAC for one reason or another for over a period of time, they are trying to constitute themselves as the PAC outside and come in and project themselves as the PAC, despite the fact
that, of course, dents the image of the whole PAC, doesn't it?
That's quite
So how
correct.
is it going to be solved going forward in remembrance of Bab Robert Sobukwe and Mam Sobukwe?
Look, what the leadership of the PAC did was to make a call to these all other people to say, come in the organization. Don't try to constitute yourself into structures outside the PAC, because that will only be disruptive of the PAC.
All right, back to Mam Sobukwe.
Yes.
What do we take? Values, two values that we take from her as women in this Women's Month.
She subscribed to a very strong African values, highly principled.
Okay.
She never seek popularity. She was focused. She set a goal, and she stick to what she set to achieve.
All right. No, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
All right. Many thanks, Narius Moloto, PAC President, of course, talking to us about the life of Mama Zondeni Sobukwe. We're taking a quick break here on SA Today, your news at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.